All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Derek Parker. I'm with Sacramento State, and I'm the program director out there. We've got our little posse of people over here, so I'm not trying to come represented. But most of you I don't know. I recognize a lot of names. Some of you I do. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the paramedic internships, a little bit about the rules, but more about the possibilities of the paramedic internship. I've been fortunate enough to do some site visits across the country and see how other organizations do their clinical and field internship times. And I just want to put a bug in everyone's ear, give you the idea of that there could be something not better, but just different out there. California is historically very linear in their delivery of paramedic education. We've got our didactic, we've got our clinical, and we've got our field internship, and they're all broken up and very put aside. But for those who've been out of California, you will understand that that's not the norm. So that's the goal of what we're going to talk about here, and we'll get going. So some of the California rules, just to break it down, make it real easy. We have a 480-hour minimum and 40 ALS contacts. Both of those, compared to the rest of the country, are high. In the other areas, you'll see. Well, let's take Nebraska for example. The average is about 288 hours of field internship time, but they don't have a 40 ALS contact minimum. They do have a 50 team lead minimum, which complies with the national education standards and is monitored. But a team lead is different than an ALS contact. So in California, we don't mandate the team lead. We do to follow a lot of the things that fall along with the COAMPs and national education stuff. But there's nothing in our regulations that says 50 team leads. We have this ALS contact. So what is an ALS contact? Is an ALS procedure performed? And that ALS contact doesn't always make it a team lead. So let's take a student early in their internship, preceptor's holding their hand, walks them through, go ahead, start the IV, they start the IV, boom, we get to mark one ALS contact. Yay, us. We don't mandate intubation, okay? An ALS contact can be an intubation early in the internship. It could be a hand-holding procedure, but this is more of a national education standards thing. And then the IV starts, then the drug pushes, that all falls in line. So we do something different here. Go figure. California does something different. We do something different, and it doesn't make it wrong. But there are other options and other things out there. So what's a team lead? This is directly from Dr. Hatch. For all the, and this will just be for my interest. Who is not affiliated with the paramedic program here? Okay. Thank you. So what's a team lead? A team lead is where a student operates with the competency and safety that an entry-level paramedic would, regardless of the level of patient. If my grandma falls down, she's got a fractured wrist, and we take her to the hospital competently. We are nice to her. We have good affect. That is a team lead. So we can see that there's two different kind of schools of thought here. How is this done elsewhere? Well, a lot of places across the country have their programs embedded into educational institutions. Community colleges are obviously the most prevalent. Then there's some four-year schools. There's some med schools University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, there's an example. But the standalone is not the standard. So with that whole concept of learning and nurturing the student, they have a lot of didactic education, and then they put them out into concurrent clinicals and concurrent field internships. A lot of their time goes all the way through, which is a little bit different than the standard. Not to say that everybody in California does it this way, but the standard delivery method here in California with the very broken up internships. Some of the segmented learning that I've been able to see is kind of interesting. FM Ambulance is a private company with it's a consortium with North Dakota Health College, something to that effect. And they break them up and they color code the students. So the students have these, let's just throw a color out there, a blue name tag. If they have a blue name tag, they're a BLS. They're going to be doing BLS skills. And then they have an orange name tag, and they're going to be doing more advanced, some IVs and things like that. And then they get to a final color, a red color, and they are to be functioning as an entry-level, competent paramedic with no hand-holding, just monitoring. It's a little bit different than how I've seen things around here. And it seems to be a very good system for them. In Pittsburgh, they do objective-based learning. And there are some very minimal some time guidelines that are adhered to, but they want to meet objectives there. And Dr. Stoy has implemented this performance-based objectives, and it seems to work well for his students within his program. Biggest thing that we lack, and I am as guilty as anyone, is about pushing forth affective learning. It is 1/3 of the learning area with your cognitive and your psychomotor, and then you have affective, and a lot of us, I should say a lot of us in our program, tend to forget that. We need to be better at teaching patients how to care as a whole. And part of the problem is how we do things in our internships is you get away from the classroom. Students will really care when you have your thumb on them and they're in class. They really care then. They don't want to look at you and they definitely don't want to hear you. But when they start to develop their own feet and they're out in the field, they tend to care a little less. It's something that can be changed, at least worked on. Okay, so some of the affective learning is every bit of California is different. We're such a diverse state. We could be up in Weed today and it'll be cold for one, but that's a different kind of person than you're going to find in this district right here. Low socioeconomic scales down here in Sacramento, and then we could go down to Beverly Hills and that's not so low. So we've got all these different regional practices, and we need to be able to gather that and use that to our advantage for teaching. So here's an example. I'm from Merced, and when I started this in the 90s, and I haven't been around that long, but in the 90s, we had high instances of out-of-hospital childbirth, and we had a very heavy Southeast Asian population within Merced, and that became a cultural issue that we had to deal with in treating patients. We didn't get much education on that, but looking back, it sure would have been helpful to learn about that Southeast Asian culture and deal with something that's very, very local and very tied into what we're doing on a daily basis. And that would fall under affect. It was a lost educational moment. Okay. When we started this program, we were this program started out of a necessity, in the opinion of those who started Sac State's program. We wanted to do something that was a little higher level. We had bigger goals. And quite honestly, our goal was to eventually become a bachelor level program. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but we're sure gonna try. We're gonna pound our heads against the wall until something breaks. And we are trying to make things more academic. So sure, everybody has preceptor training programs, or many people have preceptor training programs. We want to kind of move it up a step. We want to be able to have continual preceptor training, and I'll touch on that in just a second here. So we want to use a learning management system that we have to continually be able to reach the preceptors. It's great that the preceptors, and I'll just use Jason Amar as a preceptor training program. It makes things really easy for a lot of paramedic training programs. We don't have to get our hands dirty and train their preceptors, because they do it. And they do a pretty good job. But it's the continuing education and teaching teachers how to be teachers is where we want to make some change. Another thing to make it a little bit more academic is having more contact with the students during their internships. So we utilize our learning management system, and we've developed some things of having teachers follow students through and having contacts. We want to put more academia into their internship. Having learning objectives tailored to each student, not just as a whole, but tailor them to each student. And it could be based on where their location of their internship is. It could be based on their history. It could be based on their background in school. But we can give more learning objectives for them. Okay, internships can be academic. These are more of the goals. Utilizing the learning management systems, tracking programs such as FISDAP, and then research projects. I've had this concept, and again, I am able to see from a distance. I intimately do not know everyone's program here. Please don't think that I do. But from a distance, I see a lot of different programs, and from a distance, I see a lot of programs across the country. And one thing that I don't see a lot of is research projects based off of field internships. It can be as simple as, hey, let me do this project with SIMSA, and I'll tell you where all the patients are transported, and that's their research project. It can be something as simple as that. Or it can be more complex, having to do with disease processes and getting IRB or IRC approval. What I just don't see is a lot of the students applying their education in their internship something beyond just becoming a paramedic. Let's have them be leaders for tomorrow. Okay, I want to try and make it quick. I think I did it. But there's my contact information. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me.